Chair. This first item, we have the approval of the minutes for the August 29, 2024 special meeting.
I move approval.
Is there a second? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Item number 3, are there any public comments? Would anyone like to speak? I believe we have some time for that. If not, we'll just move to item 4, the update stadium financing and ancillary matters.
Good morning, members of the board. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Jermaine Freeman from the city of Chattanooga. So today we'd like to really provide an update on where we are in terms of the bond financing. We have Mark Mamentov, who you all have met many times, is here to speak a little bit. And then we also have Marcy Lewis from PFM, which is the financial consultant, financial advisor for both the city of Chattanooga and Hamilton County, who will take you through a short slide presentation of where we are. And so with that, I think I'm going to turn things over to Mark to set up Marcy, and then we'll go from there. So.
Good morning, Mark Mamentov, Bassbury and Sims. It's so good to see you guys. I don't want to steal Marcy's thunder. It's exciting because she's going to report on all the interest rates and how the bond sale went, and it's a great compliment to the city and the county and how strong their credit is, which made this actually a very smooth process. It was way, way smoother than what we faced in Knoxville with a very choppy market. I just want to report to you all that we're closing on Tuesday. Everything seems to be on track until that wire flows, and I'm going to be worried for the next, what is that, about 100 something hours, but there's always interesting legal issues. But New City is on track to close on their adjoining property on probably Monday afternoon. They're supposed to close on or before we close, so that's an important thing that is going on at the same time that we are. The team is contributing, as you all know, a couple $1 million, and Jason's back from Europe, and glad it seemed like it's time to go to Europe. Phil just got back. We're really excited everybody's back for the closing, and so that is on track. The site owner, Andy, Gary, and them are all on track to close their financing to do the site work, and that money will be put in escrow at closing, as we've discussed. And Jason is on track to close his $17 million loan with First Bank, and I've been communicating directly with them. So I'm sure there'll be hiccups. Our closing list has probably 150 documents on them, and so I want to thank Reverend Weeks. She came early to sign for us, and Matt, I hope your wrist is limber and you're ready to go. And so because we got a lot for you to sign, and so Carrie is going to come sign for the city IDB for the TIF stuff. So I'll be here glad to answer any questions. But otherwise, the main purpose today is I know particularly Ms. Mash will be excited to hear, see all the numbers and stuff, because she's seen it so many times in her prior roles. And just in my plain English view is the rates were good. I mean, markets are such that it could be any time. I'm sure Marcy will explain to you. But, we've made numerous presentations to the public over the last year about sort of what the rates would be. And we came in, within $100,000 of basically most of them. So it was not... we did well. We waited a week when the market was choppy due to CPI stuff, and it paid off by probably at least $100,000 a year. So that was a good thing. So it is so we hope to get this closed. Bill promises me he'll have that stadium ready still in April of 2026, and so we'll turn over. Marcy.
Hi, I have a presentation that I'm getting it loaded up. Very quick presentation. I'm Marcy Lewis with PFM. As Mark said, hindsight's always, the best judge of the market, but we really were in the market at the right time for this. So last Wednesday, we sold 2 series of bonds for the total of $80 million. The Series A ended up being $63.805 million, and the Series B at $14.83 million. Sorry, you can go to slide 2. I didn't realize there was a clicker. There we go. So as Mark said, this will close on Tuesday, and that's when the funds will be available. And that includes the 2024 C bonds. Then we'll go to the next one. So a quick summary of the results. The all-in true interest cost of 4.658%. The average debt service on the tax-exempt Series A bonds is about $4.56 million, and the average annual debt service on the Series B is about $1 million, which is what we were scheduled for that because of the team lease payments. We had a very, very strong market despite a heavy supply week. We've seen the municipal bond supply heavy the last probably month or so because everyone's trying to get into the market leading up to elections. So the supply last week was about 13.9 billion, including 5 transactions of over 500 million. So that always makes us a little bit nervous when these quote-unquote smaller issuances come to market. Will there be investor demand? But given the credit of the city and the county lending this their AA rating, we had over 40 investor accounts place 74 unique orders that totaled $669 million for this $80 million bond issue. So that resulted in what we call an oversubscription of over 10 times. Because of this, we were able to lower the interest rates or yields on the bonds by as much as 0.21% or 21 basis points in certain maturities. Based on what we had been projecting right prior to the sale, this saved about $4 million in interest. So this is just real quick, kind of shows you the debt service on the Series A bonds compared to the projected TIF and sales tax revenues. You'll see that the first couple of years have gray bars. Those are the years where we funded a capitalized interest account to pay the interest on the bonds until those revenues start to come in. And then debt service is kind of structured, you'll maybe little over 1 times coverage in the first year, and then it leaps up to almost 3 times. So should be plenty of revenues to cover the debt service on these bonds. And then there's a typo here. This is Series B taxable compared to the team lease revenues. So in the same case, we have capitalized interest that was funded until the team will start making those $1 million a year lease payments, and then we structured the debt service to be about $1 million a year for those lease payments. And then I'm not gonna go into this. It's a lot of numbers. This is kind of a leave behind for you guys, but it just shows the actual debt service on the Series A and B bonds, the total, as well as the estimated TIF revenues, sales tax and TIF revenues, and then the lease payments. And the debt service coverage on the right is just the Series A bonds, because we know that the Series B bonds are about 1 time. Any questions? Oh, I would like to say that we're glad we went last week and not this week. Yesterday, we saw a rise in interest rates of about 15 basis points across the board. After it's kind of been inching up all week, but yesterday was a little bit crazy. So we definitely timed it right. Our crystal ball worked.
Yeah, congratulations on a successful bond sale.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for the board?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and if it's okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask our city engineer, Bill Payne, to come up to provide an update on the pricing.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, members of the board. The board at its last meeting had voted to approve the guaranteed maximum price, but in order to make sure that everything was aligned, both with the timing of the bond sale, we did have to extend that pricing before it was all executed in order to make sure that everything aligned properly. The result of that there were some very, very minor price increases that had to be passed along, that came along as of October 1st. It's about $161,200 increase above the amount that for the base that the board approved. So the revised current guaranteed maximum price is $76,472,215. That does reflect, however, while there were some increases, that does reflect some savings to the overall project because of some fee waivers by the city council that are included in an interlocal agreement. So that does reflect those savings. So effectively, what that means, there's no additional action that would be necessary by the board because the board in that resolution approving the guaranteed maximum price also approved a contingency. So we effectively, what we will be asking, Mr. Chair, what we'll be asking you to sign for the GMP amendment document, a copy of which was included in your all's packet, but that document will reflect this slight increase of $161,000, and from our side, on a project management perspective, we will just operate with less contingency on this contract.
That is covered by the contingency that we approved.
Correct. So I think we had roughly $1.5 million in contingency that was approved. It was about a 2% number. We'll just operate on $161,000 less as we move forward. So obviously, the overall project budget is still at $115 million, so there's no change in that. We're just having to massage within the contingency. So just wanted to make the board aware of that as a result of getting the right alignment of the guaranteed maximum price amendment with the bond, we did have to do a little bit of pricing extension with that, so.
Okay.
But certainly, that document, as well as all of the exhibits that go with that guaranteed maximum price amendment are part of the board's packet as well for information, and we'll be, I know we'll be working with Maria in order to get the chair's signature on that document.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Miss Daisy has a question.
I'm trying to find the document that you're referencing that's in the packet.
So in the packet, and it's a copy of the packet that Maria had sent around, which had everything for today's meeting. It's after the PFM proposal.
Do I have a hard copy? I don't have a hard copy.
We can certainly.
Oh, that's fine. I was just. Okay.
Yeah, we can certainly make sure that everybody who wants one gets a copy of that. So. And then if I may, Mr. Chair, just quickly, because I know the board had asked to be sure and get some updates and regular reporting on the budget itself. And so we have been working with the finance team to have some reporting that will be very similar to some things that we've used before on some other projects. So we will be having that at future meetings. For right now, there's really nothing much to report because everything is just at its beginning phases, but we anticipate that at future meetings, we will definitely be able to show progress on what things have been committed by the contractor, what things have been spent, where things are in terms of projections versus where everything is going to land at the end, just so that way the board has some visibility into how the project is proceeding.
And that will be for the entire 115?
Yes, it will be for the full 115. So there'll be, what we are tracking already, we already have the processes implementing and in place, which is how it'll be the 115. There will also be a separate piece on visibility into the $10 million of public infrastructure, since that's outside of that. But we are working through a process that we call request notices in order to be able to show where we anticipate money being spent, which will then also show us, we'll be able to compare that to how invoices and the contractual side of that actually works out. So that way it helps us stay on track and make sure we don't go over budget before we get to the point of committing dollars.
Thanks.
Certainly.
Hey, Bill, while we got you, so once the capital hits on Tuesday, how does that change things? Are we like full bore construction at that point, or have we already kind of been in the process?
So there are some pieces that already are moving. So the property owner has signed and yourself as well have signed the site preparation agreement. So they have already, the property owner has already been doing work for lead and asbestos remediation of several of the buildings that both were demolished, which they have already demolished actually in advance while this was going through this process. So that work has been proceeding. They have already started mobilizing contractors out on site, and the public infrastructure portion of the work has already begun doing the jack and bore, which is drilling a new line underneath I-24, which will drain this area and help get it separated from the combined sewer area. So all those things are already in process. And then I think over the summer, the board had authorized about $9.5 million for an early release package. And so we have authorized EMJ to go ahead and begin just this week. We've authorized them to go ahead and start making some of those awards. That would just essentially just gets paperwork and people moving, but there's not really a lot of actual dollar expenditure that will hit until after next Tuesday as well. We also anticipate that the guaranteed maximum price amendment would also be executed likely before Tuesday, but there's, again, it gets a lot of paperwork moving, but doesn't actually commit any real dollars. If there was, I know Mark always talks about being anxious until he actually sees the wire transfer, but there's no significant exposure at that point in just the next few days.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Jermaine also reminded me, because I'd mentioned this about the public infrastructure component that's going in and that new drainage line that will go underneath the interstate, but just by way of reiterating this point to the board and for others that are here, that drainage line does have a significant impact for both the city as well as our wastewater system and the community, and the way that development can occur out there. Currently, a large portion of that entire U.S. Pipe property, including all of the stadium property, is currently drains into the combined sewer portion, which means that every drop of rainwater that lands on that site currently goes through the wastewater treatment plant. That just adds volume, which adds cost and adds expense, which ultimately has to be borne by the ratepayers of the wastewater system. By installing this line underneath, we're going to be able to separate out a significant portion, not just of the stadium, all of the stadium site, but the majority of the U.S. Pipe. Not all of the U.S. Pipe site can be served by it just because of the way the elevations on some of the property, but as much of it as can be separated and tied into this new drainage system. So, of course, the city does have rules in place for stormwater controls to make sure that water quality and flood control components are handled on that. And so those are already part of the stadium design, and they will be part of future design work that happens both with what New City Properties is doing as well as other developments that will happen on that. But ultimately, all of that, because of this new line, that will mean that as these properties switch over and make those connections, there will begin to be less water that is sent to the wastewater plant. And so ultimately, those things will translate themselves into lower costs going forward for the wastewater. So we do appreciate what the Sports Authority is doing through that public infrastructure agreement with the city, because that's helping facilitate get this line in, and we anticipate it's going to have a good impact on overall wastewater rates. So we appreciate that from the board as well.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I would also like to invite Andy Stone, who represents the Perimeter Properties and Pipe Properties, to talk a little bit about some of the early site work that they're already doing.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me today. So very exciting day. You know, we've all been working long and hard, and there's a lot of people, a lot of efforts, the city and county and Bill and his staff. So just big kudos to everybody there. So thank you for that. As Jermaine said, and as Bill sort of emphasized, we have started and begun sort of the early preparations of site work. So the buildings that need to be removed have been torn down, lead and all the asbestos at this point has been remediated and removed. Lead-based paint work is ongoing right now. It's about 3/4 of the way completed. And what they started this week was removing and salvaging of the slabs that are existing out there. So those will be used in some of the landscape and architectural features that you'll see around the stadium site with the Riverwalk and sort of interfacing with all of that. So Brown Brothers has mobilized, and I literally just came from a big giant kickoff meeting in our office. I think there's 20 people there, including a bunch of other folks, so we're just trying to get sites set up. So over the coming weeks, you'll see MJ's trailers move in. Temporary power's already been relocated to site, just everybody getting prepped. So steady progress of activity, and we'd love to have you guys down for a tour here in the very near future.
Cool. Thank you.
If any questions, please feel free to reach out. Bill knows how to get a hold of us. So.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you all so much.
Mr. Chair, I don't think that we have anything else. So I think what I would just want to say to the Sports Authority is that you all are about to get a stadium built. And so it's about to be yours. So we are happy and grateful that this day has come. And we are very happy and grateful for all of the leadership and collaboration that you all have provided to the city and the county through this process. And we will, of course, be with you every step of the way as the stadium gets built. So,
Jermaine, thank you. I mean, yes, this feels like a big inflection point. And what do you see next in terms of what comes to the board level?
sure. I think what you should expect from us are steady updates about the progress of construction. I don't anticipate that there will be, knock on wood, many resolutions for you to vote on over the next few meetings. But I think that what you should expect from us are just regular updates about the progress of construction, any challenges that we encounter along the way. There are always challenges with construction projects, especially projects of this magnitude. And you should just continue to ask us about all of those things. In addition to that, as we get sort of several months out, you all should also expect updates from us on the status of implementation of some of the things that we're committed to in the community benefits agreement. So that, I think, is what you will be hearing from us over the next few months.
Great. Any further questions?
I've got a request.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we get an update on the traffic study?
Yes, we can do that. Andy and Bill, do y'all want to?
We will certainly be glad to get an additional update. It happened yesterday in a meeting that we were having with TDOT. It was actually a topic that came up, and so there was some discussion between some of the city transportation folks and the TDOT folks about making sure that we have a combined review of that study. So I think we have everything has been received from the developer, from the property owner. I'll let Andy speak to that more specifically,
Yeah.
but just because it was literally coming up yesterday, I know we were having those conversations and beginning to talk about sort of that understanding that it is a larger impact than a typical development.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because I think we have a responsibility to let through the newspaper and other media, to let the community know that it's on the radar. And if we have updates, then they'll see that it's on the radar. And thinking about the whole community and how when events happen down there, we'll be able to get to it. They'll be able to get to it however it is eventually figured out.
Well, and these studies are pretty complex. So what we do is you start with a draft report, and that's been issued and is out there. And so that then gets reviewed because you have city roads and streets, but Broad Street is actually controlled by the state of Tennessee. Most people don't realize that, but that's a state highway. So you have two different layers of review and impacts, and sometimes competing interest, right? We as pedestrians want a slower Broad Street, but TDOT says, oh my gosh, we got to relieve 24. We want to move cars through at certain paces. So it's a balancing of that. We did, with the input of both CDOT and the Department of Transportation, increase where the traffic counts were done. So we counted cars all the way from the Publix all the way through to intersections at Riverfront Parkway and Chestnut. So the area has been expanded. The biggest challenges with these studies is layering in multifacets of development, right? So as South Broad continues to grow and change, the reports are only good for the moment and the data set what you put in. So again, as we review and add input to this is an ever-growing process, but Reverend, you're 100% right. It's something that is critical. It's critical for both the success of the development and the stadium as a whole. Managing traffic. I was in Nashville yesterday, and it took me 32 minutes to go all of 8 miles and never got anywhere, right? So we don't want to be that either. So, but no, it's on the forefront, and we have some of the best people working on that. So.
Thanks to both of you for being on this, being on top of it. Thank you.
Certainly. Our pleasure.
Daisy?
I think last time we talked about this agreement that doesn't involve us concerning community requests and desires with respect to this project. Will there be, even though we're not a party to that agreement, will there be any information back to this board regarding, and I think they talked about participation of contractors, diverse participation of contractors, was that right? Am I reading that correctly? Yeah.
Yes, we are happy to provide updates about the implementation and of the community benefits agreement.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yes, and so we will, as part of the construction updates, we are happy to check in with the baseball team and the site owners and the developers to get updates. And they have always been gracious enough with their time to come, and so they can also provide updates to you as well. Yeah, but we will make that a regular
All right.
part.
Thanks, Jermaine.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else? Congratulations, let's build the stadium.
Work on it.
All right. Good short meeting.